Happy Friday, everyone. And now the good news. Well, we can use some of that this week, can't we? Well, I'm so delighted to be here. I'm Barbara Jean. I'll be your host this evening. And let's get started with some really exciting breakthroughs for those of us who have a little trouble falling asleep at night. A team of MIT graduates has invented a commercial device that will give an alternative to sleeping pills for those who struggle to sleep. It's a minimally disruptive headband that looks like something that would be sold at an Apple store. Technically speaking, it's an electroencephalogram, EEG, that sends audio waves into the brain to better align the brain regions to help the onset of sleep. In a small study of the effects of the EEG headband called Elimind, individuals with sleep onset insomnia were able to fall asleep 10 to 15 minutes faster when wearing the headband. Elimind was founded by David Wang and Ed Boyden, both graduates of MIT. And along with helping people who have trouble sleeping, this method may also be effective for slowing or preventing cognitive decline. Ooh, now that's really good news. We wanted to create a non-chemical option for people who wanted to get great sleep without side effects, so you could get all the benefits of natural sleep without the risks. There's a number of people that we think would benefit from this device, whether you're a breastfeeding mom that might not want to take a sleep drug, somebody traveling across time zone that wants to fight jet lag, or someone that simply wants to improve your next day performance and feel like you've had more control over your sleep. The founding scientists got their start using transcranial electrostimulation to try and moderate essential tremor syndrome, but later moved it to a less regulated, less explored field: sleep. We have a theory that the sound that we play triggers an auditory evoked response in the brain. That means we get our auditory cortex to basically release this voltage burst that sweeps across your brain and interferes with other regions. Some people who have worn the Elimind call it a brain jammer. For folks that ruminate a lot before they go to sleep, their brains are actively running. This encourages their brain to quiet down. Indeed, one of the marketing angles is put your brain on do not disturb, which is a pretty convincing push. Those interested in the headband can pre-order through Elimine for $99 in advance of the $350 cost down the road. Sign me up. I could use a good night's sleep too. I love that. I love that a lot. All right. So, moving right along with all the little things that affect us, type 2 diabetes patients who stick to a low carb diet may be able to stop taking medication. That sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? People with type 2 diabetes really are struggling with their sugar, and of course carbohydrates we know boost it in the bloodstream. So American researchers found that low carbohydrate diet may improve the beta cell function in patients being treated for the condition, which this condition affects about 34 million Americans and 1 in 15 people worldwide. Type 2 diabetes most often develops in people age 45 or older, but more and more children, teens, and young adults are also developing the disease. The researchers explained that beta cells are endocrine cells in the pancreas that produce and release insulin, the hormone that controls blood sugar levels. People with the disease have a compromised beta cell response to blood sugar, possibly due in part to eating too many carbs. Empty carbs are full of sugar and white flour, which have a high glycemic index, which means they cause blood sugar and insulin levels to spike rapidly after eating. They include refined grains that have been stripped of bran, fiber, and nutrients, such as white bread or bagels, pizza dough, chips, pasta, pastries, white rice, sweet desserts, and many breakfast cereals. The study shows people with type 2 diabetes on a low carbohydrate diet can recover their beta cells, an outcome that cannot be achieved with medication. Ah, that's very cool. People with mild type 2 diabetes who reduce their carbohydrate intake may be able to discontinue medication and enjoy eating meals and snacks that are higher in protein and meet their energy needs. For this study, published online by the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, the research team gathered data from 57 adults with type 2 diabetes, half on a low carb diet and the other half on a high carb diet, and examined their beta cell function and insulin secretion at the outset, pardon me, and after 12 weeks. All of the participants' meals were provided. People on the carb restricted diet are 9% carbs and 65% fat, while those on the high carb diet ate 55% carbs and 20% fat. The team found that those on low carb compared to a high carb diet saw improvements in the acute and maximal beta cell responses that were twofold and 22% greater, respectively. Black participants on a low carb diet saw 110% greater improvements in the acute beta cell response, while white adults had improvements in the maximal beta cell response that were 48% greater than their respective counterparts on the high carb diet. Professor Gower says further research is needed to confirm that a low carb diet can restore beta cell function and lead to remission in people with type 2 diabetes. Well, let's keep the research going and let's see what we can do. All right, here's a fun story. Fun stories are great. So, a couple who met in the chips aisle returned to the supermarket for priceless pics on their wedding day. How cool is that? An English couple came up with the romantic idea of returning to the spot they first met, taking wedding photos in the snack aisle of their local supermarket. 20-year-old Jessica met Jackson Weston Brown in 2017 at a Waitrose store in East Sussex. She had just started her job there as a store assistant and was asked to train Jackson on how to put bags of chips on the shelf. Loved, love blossomed, and 7 years later, the lovebirds returned to the Waitrose to take photos and buy an extra special bag of chips. It started as a joke a few years ago. One of our friends posted in our group chat on Instagram reel of someone who'd gone back to the place they met on their wedding day. All my friends are in couples that met on a dating app and said they would never be able to do this kind of thing. Then me and Jax were like, oh my gosh, we could go back to the chip aisle. It just became a bit of a joke that we were going to do it on our wedding day. And then as the day approached, we were like, let's actually do it. After the photos, the newlyweds suddenly realized they should buy a bag. They chose black peppercorn kettle chips. Ooh, those are good. Saying it had to be something classy for their wedding day. We haven't eaten them yet. We're saving them for our first anniversary, said the 27-year-old bride. Their former colleagues in the Eastbourne store also presented the couple with a bouquet of red roses. Jessica replied, we were walking down in our wedding attire and there were just random people shopping and taking stuff off the shelves, which was quite funny. Oh, I love that. You know what? We do interesting and fun things, and I think that was very sweet. We're going to take a brief little commercial break, and then we are going to be right back with more good news. You're watching the New Thought Media Network and the good news.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And now more good news. Let's start with a 14-year-old genius. Wow, this kid is something else. A 14-year-old wins America's top young scientist for inventing a pesticide detector for fruits and vegetables. Well, that sounds amazing. Ninth grader from Snellville, Georgia, has won the 3M Young Scientist Challenge after inventing a handheld device designed to detect pesticide residues on produce. Surash Subhash set himself apart with his AI based sensor to win the grand prize of $25,000 cash and the prestigious title of America's top young scientist. Like most inventors, Sirish was intrigued with curiosity and a simple question. His mother always insisted that he wash the fruit before eating it, and the boy wondered if the preventative action actually did any good. He learned that 70% of produce items contain pesticide residues that are linked to possible health problems like cancer and Alzheimer's, and washing only removes part of the contamination. If we could detect them, we could avoid consuming them and reduce the risk of those health issues. His device, called Pestiscan, employs spectrophotometry. I probably said that wrong, which involves measuring the light that is reflected off the surface of fruit and vegetables. In his experiments, he tested over 12,000 samples of apples, spinach, strawberries, and tomatoes. Different materials reflect and absorb different wavelengths of light, and Petroscan can look for the specific wavelengths related to pesticide residues. After scanning the food, Pestiscan uses an AI machine learning model to analyze the light waves to determine the pressure of pesticide presence, presence of pesticides. With its sensor and processes, the phototype achieved a detection accuracy rate of greater than 85%, meeting the project's objectives for effectiveness and speed. What a good looking young man, eh? What a great way to start your college education with something like this. Boy, I think this boy is going to go a long way. Wow. And so handsome, such a handsome young man. All right, astronauts, are you ready? Well, this could have been really, really sad, but you know what? It's turned out to be actually pretty good. Four astronauts returned to Earth after unexpected 8 months stuck in space. Holy moly, I don't think I could do that. These astronauts who were stranded aboard, sometimes you wash it and then you can't do a thing with it. All right. The astronauts who were stranded aboard the International Space Station have splashed down on Earth following their unexpected 8-month stay. It was quite it wasn't quite lost in space. They weren't lost, for example, but in August, when Boeing Starliner space capsule scheduled to pick them up had to return to Earth empty for malfunctions and safety concerns, there must have been a small measure of concern. NASA's Crew 8 mission, consisting of, I'm not going to read all their names, but they arrived via SpaceX Dragon capsule back in March. Barrett is the only one of the team to have entered space previously, and all four were deemed fashionably late by Danish Space Station Commander Andreas Morgensen after a small crack in the capsule's hatch prompted a late flurry of diagnostics reports and associated delays. The ISS was at overcapacity for inhabitants during the 2 months when the Starliner mission failed, and Barrett told the AP that ground crews and support staff of NASA had to replan, retool, and kind of redo everything right along with us and helped us to roll with all those punches. They've now parachuted back down into the Gulf of Mexico after a SpaceX capsule retrieved them last week. One unnamed astronaut was taken to the hospital to be treated for an undisclosed injury. The other three are recuperating at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. It can take several weeks for the body to adjust to Earth's gravity after a prolonged stay in microgravity. They conducted new scientific research, including stem cell research, in developing organoid models for studying degenerative diseases, exploring how fuel temperature affects material flammability, and studying how spacelight affects immune function in astronauts. Their work aims to improve astronaut health during long duration space flights, contributing to critical advancements in space medicine and benefiting humanity overall. The crew of 4 were replaced by 2 pairs of ISS visitors, the true astronauts set up in the capsule that eventually brought the stranded astronauts back home, and 2 Starliner test pilots. So we're so happy they're back home, and I hope, whoever's in the hospital with injuries is going to be doing well very, very soon. All right. Well, here's another interesting story. A missing runner found alive after wow, I'm really off tonight. After surviving a month in the wilderness without supplies. Yes. This story comes from North Cascades, Washington. Against all odds, Robert Schock, 39, was rescued after surviving a month alone in Washington's North Cascades National Park. Schock went missing on July 31st after setting out on a 20-mile run with his dog Freddie, with plans to return home that day. Packing minimally for a swift run, he carried only a small backpack, a dog pan, and Freddie by his side, never expecting a prolonged wilderness ordeal. Schock, an experienced ultra runner, found himself disoriented without cell service on the second day. When his phone died, he realized the situation was becoming dire, and hoping Freddie might lead authorities to him, sent his dog off to find help. 4 days after Schock vanished, his mother, Jan Thompson, received a call from the Whatcom Humane Society with astonishing news. Freddie had been found, sparking a series of intensive search in the days and weeks that followed. Despite extensive efforts on both land and by air, rescuers were unable to locate Schock. With minimal resources, Schock survived by foraging on berries and a large mushroom he found. His discovery finally came a month later on August 30th, when a crew from the Pacific Northwest Trail Association, worn from hours of backpacking trail repair, heard faint cries while across the Chilliwack River. I was sitting there naked and knew I wasn't going to make it through the night. So I was like, I'm going to scream one last time. I said, help. They described the rescue as narrowly averted tragedy. They were returning to their backcountry camp, exhausted, when they crossed the Chilliwack River and heard something barely discernible above the sound of the river, but out of place for their surroundings. It was not readily apparent that they had heard a person, but their intuition was to take time to investigate just in case. A half a mile off trail along the bank of the Chilliwack River, laid out and exposed to the elements, they found him. It is the belief of those who came to be involved in the rescue that Robert may have had only another day left in him before the outcome of his discovery would have been much more tragic. Shock was airlifted to a hospital where he spent a month recovering. Though significantly thinner, he was otherwise in remarkable condition after his month-long ordeal. It's amazing what the human body can handle and what we can actually survive. All right, so here's a great story about a teacher. I love teacher stories that are really, really good. A New Jersey teacher uses body as human shield to protect a teen from a group attack. For many young people, teachers play the role of mentor, counselor, and friends. But for one isolated New Jersey student, his teacher became a guardian. Outnumbered 5-1, a student at William Shemin Midtown College School in Bayonne was set upon by his peers, only for his teacher to interfere, shielding his prone body with hers. Recorded by nearby security cameras, the scene saw 56-year-old Kathy Hurley try and prevent violence from starting between a group of teens while she was walking to her car. Hurley's daughter, speaking with ABC 7 News, said her mother must have known that was something wrong, and because she was raised to stick up for the underdog, tried to talk the teens out of fighting. They ignored her. Throwing one boy to the ground, repeatedly punching and kicking him, Hurley tried to push them away before eventually lowering herself over the defenseless student, dissuading the assailants from throwing further blows. ABC 7 reports that all 5 teens were charged with assault, endangering an injured victim, and rioting while the young boy was taken to the hospital. The school district superintendent in a statement said, "I can tell you this, that teacher embodies what each and every one who works and lives in Bayonne is all about." She was raised that way, said Hurley's daughter. I was raised that way to stick up for the underdog, and I know that her responding was an instinct. Uh, she also added that her mom is living proof that society is full of good and selfless people. I keep saying that. I say that a lot. I think there's lots of good people in our world. Okay, twins. Twins are interesting, aren't they? 30 to 50% of twins develop a language exclusive to them during childhood, but these polyglots never stopped. From the BBC comes a delightfully educational story about a pair of identical twins who developed their own language. Umeri is not anything you'll find on Google Translate. It's only 2 speakers, Matthew and Michael Yolden. It's written here as being developed rather than invented because Umeri is a sophisticated and extremely rare example of a phenomenon known as twin speak. Twin speak is a mutually intelligible communication pattern developed by twins that is typically unintelligible by anyone else. It arises naturally in twins or even very closely aged non-twin siblings around the time that the child is developing their earliest concepts in language. The technical term is cryptophagia or secret talk. But this great designation is a rather cold and heartless way of viewing the fascinating phenomena. Experts in the little research field of understanding twin speak say it has nothing to do with keeping dialogue secret from parents, but rather emerges as both children babble their way to correct speech. In most cases, it seems to be a developmental phenomena occurring in the second year of life, with the emergence of immature speech and decreasing considerably over the next 16 months. A small group of children, primarily male twins, was reported to use a private language at 36 months. The twins insist Umeri isn't about keeping anything private. It's isn't even ever reduced to a language used to keeping things private. It definitely has a very sentimental value to us as it reflects the deep bond we share as identical twins. Aw, that's kind of sweet. All right, 20 bucks. 20 bucks, anybody. $20 bill found on the ground leads to a $1 million win for a North Carolina lottery player. It was the easiest payday that master carpenter Jerry Hicks ever made, and the biggest too. He must have thought it was his lucky day when he stopped outside a convenience store and noticed $20 on the ground. He didn't know the half of it. Hicks from Banner Elk, North Carolina, took the 20 bucks, walked into the Speedway on State Highway 105 in Boone on Tuesday evening, bought an extreme cash scratch off. Officials say Hicks said that the Speedway didn't have the lottery game he preferred to play, so bought a different one he was unfamiliar with. It's interesting how these little choices can seem so consequential when the result was that he won $1 million with the ticket that he bought. Huh, I think he bought the right ticket. What do you think? All right, so this is one of my favorite stories ever. This is about a huge mastiff posing in human clothes, and he's earning 1,000 a month for herself and her loving owner. Look at that. I mean, oh my goodness, they're so good. A human-sized dog is earning its keep and more by posing for TikTok dressed as a human. Callum Barber dresses his 2-year-old cane corso, a type of mastiff, and stuffs the arms and legs with padding to make her look like a buff dude. Fans are won over by the pet's deadpan expression and huge patience, despite being posed as if she were doing pull-ups, driving a four-wheeler, or chilling on a deck chair. Her footage has become so popular, the pooch named Mist is pulling in an average of nearly 1,000 per month from TikTok views and sponsorship from the likes of Universal and Expedia. Callum, a landscape gardener in Coventry, England, says he banks all the money in a separate account for Mist in case she ever needs it for vet bills, for example. Every time she does a social media appearance, Callum buys her an $18 steak, which she loves. I'll bet she does. Whoa. All right, we're coming to the end, so let me be speedy here. 2 unwanted dogs spending months in shelter become best friends, and now they're family after adoption of them both. So Boone and Rayleigh spent over 450 days at a shelter in South Carolina Humane Society. One was deaf, the other shy, but a prospective owner who'd been following their stories through social media decided enough was enough. They both deserved a happy, loving home. Riley, with a reputation of being sweet to dogs and shy to strangers, had been up for adoption for 10 months, the last 4 of which were spent tail and tail with a new arrival named Boone. Another longtime resident, Boone's stay would end up spanning 150 days. He was deaf, and we were struggling to find him a home that would be patient and understanding. Boone and Riley took daily walks together at the shelter, and now they have their forever home. Yay! Let's hear it for these 2 pups. You know, the good news is something that just lights me up going into the weekend. It's so wonderful to think about the beautiful people in our world, the intelligence, the creativity, the way in which we help each other and serve to make this world even a better place. And we saw many examples of that tonight. So I just want to say, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider donating to the New Thought Media Network. We are a powerful organization growing and expanding, and we really love the work that we do, and we want to keep doing it. So please, if this is working for you, send in a donation to ntmedia.org, and just know that what you're doing makes a difference. Again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Barbara Jean. You're watching The Good News here on the New Thought Media Network, and we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.